You know, we talk about you guys a lot, and you're like you're one of the solutions, right? You're one of the solutions, and as long as you understand what we're up against, okay? As long as you understand what we're up against severe, just close the door.
Can you guys pull the
Probably
door?
gets too hot in here, huh?
Yeah.
We're up against severe, threats, I guess. Can you guys all hear? Do I need to stand? I don't like standing behind things like that. Can you guys hear?
Yeah, I
Feel-
think
Feel-
it's easier
Huh?
if you do stand behind, because, I just,
That's where all the microphones are.
yeah, that's where all the mics are.
Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
It's okay, nothing separates us from you, General Flynn.
Move them out. Okay.
Please man the door.
Okay, and I'll just kind of lean here and make sure that nothing's like that. Okay, so I'm gonna count to 10. Can you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Can you guys, or whoever's got these things up here?
We're good to go, sir.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
good to go
okay.
then.
All right, what was that?
That was a start.
Probably not against
I thought it was
that.
like, you're clapping, I'm out of here. Okay.
Action.
So who wants to ask the first question?
That one's not live.
Huh?
General
Well,
Flynn,
you
what
guys
should we
question
need?
out, 'cause if you're questioning out,
I have
I'm
a
answering
question.
out.
This is Kim Yater from the Take Your Power Back show on Salem Radio.
Okay.
I get to spend some time with you, with Clay Clark, at the Thrive Time. He had a
Yep.
small group of people. You were concerned. You stood there and you said, you leaned forward and you said, now's the time. You stand up, but you take care of your families.
Yeah,
You were so concerned.
yeah.
What do we need to be concerned about right now? What action steps do we, the people, need to take our power back?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't follow me on social media or my website or whatever, and my website's generalflynn.com. The last article that I wrote is and I'm gonna craft a little bit more of the how, sort of in the second component of it here. Whenever I get a few minutes to sit down and think, but. I said in that article that we can't win 2024. So anybody that, cares about the country going forward as an experiment in democracy or as a constitutional republic, we can't win in 2024 unless the governors of this country step up. Because we, the people, can do whatever we want to do. We can talk a lot and we can get in there and mix it up, but if the outcome of 2024 is the same as it was for 2020 and 2022, and I can say that I don't think that 2020, my opinion is I don't think 2020 was a fair election. I think that there were major parts of 2022 that were unfair as well. That's my opinion. I have I was just over there with the young gentleman Dexter reading them the First Amendment. So that's my opinion, and that I believe that we don't have a fair election system. So elections are not federal responsibilities. Elections are state responsibilities. So governors, we don't have a governor yet, not that I'm aware of, unless you guys tell me otherwise. I have not heard one governor yet say that 2020 was even remotely fraudulent.
Right.
Not one. Kerry Lake, who ran for Arizona, is still in court. So we'll see what the outcome is. But it's like touch and go. The reason why they went after Kerry Lake so much was because she put on her platform that she was going to go after, election fraud in her state, right? Which she can. Any governor can do that. And she got beaten, by the next day, right? So the results were she was beaten, and of course, you can't say anything about it. You can't talk about it. You can't, the media just calls you all sorts of names. But not one governor called her up to say, you know what, Kerry, I'm really sorry that it looks like that Maricopa County, county you got out there is just really, man, they're broken. They're filled with all kinds of fraud. Not one governor called her up, not one Republican governor. Okay, I know that. So that tells me about a weakness in the governors that we have in our country, the sitting governors that we have in our country. And you kind of look at the laundry list of governors who want to be president, right? There's a laundry. There's going to be, some of them have already announced, others will announce. And so governors are the ones that they have executive power, executive authority per not only the United States Constitution, but the Constitution of their state. And they have responsibilities like borders, right? They have responsibilities for borders. So, if you haven't read that article, take a read through that article because unless we have governors who step up and take responsibility for their elections in their states, not secretaries of state, counties can do certain things, people in counties, county commissioners, county election commissioners, right? We elect these people. They can do certain things, and counties, there's some counties in the country that are taking responsibility and doing some different things and changing it up. We're not going to change mail-in ballots. We're not going to change ballot harvesting. We're not going to change election months. We don't have election day. We have like an election month now. As the state of Virginia, there's a primary going on where it's like 45 days to vote for the state elections, right? So we're not going to change any of that between now and 2024. Now, if you get in, if we're able to overcome what it is that we are facing, then maybe we have a chance to start to whittle that down a little bit and get after these problems that we have and go back to a voting system that is constitutional, from the standpoint of who actually is the authority of it, because we actually are the authority of it. And I addressed the 10th Amendment. I addressed the 10th Amendment in that article. And so I really want governors. I want governors who don't think about their own damn egos and allow their egos to get in the way. I want them to start thinking about this country, because if we don't have like a Donald Trump type person or him in the White House in 2024, we may be done. It's a scary thing, we go from hope to fear, right? Because that's sort of, remember Barack Obama coming in the beginning of his first term, what did he talk about? Hope and change, right? That's how they start. They start with hope, right? Hope. That's how they start. Okay, if you read anything about the rise of communism in the turn of the last century, you start with hope, because all these other people over here, they're bad. And then all of a sudden, what kicks in? What kicked in 2020? And it was under Trump, but it wasn't something that he created, and it wasn't really an act of God either. And fear, okay? So now we're in a state of, where fear seems, I talk to people all the time, where there's like a sense of fear instead of a sense of hope, right? And I want people to have a sense of hope about what it is but see, hope only comes when, you can feel good about yourself, but, it's like working hard, right? If you build something with your own hands, you like cherish it for the rest of your life, right? I got stuff that I built in in wood shop when I was in the 7th grade. I still have, because it's like a little thing, a little box, right? I kept it. I keep little things in it, right? Built it in the 7th grade because I built it, right? And I think that's what people have to understand, is that we built this country, so you can't just sit back and kind of feel good about it. You got to go work on it. People have to go work on it. And these and the governors. I'll stick to the governors, because Washington D.C. is so broken. But the governors still have a chance. We still have a chance with these governors if they do the right thing. Okay, states' rights are really super important. Go back to the Federalist Papers, written in prior to the Constitution. You read just some of the Federalist Papers where they were talking and arguing about states' rights, because they didn't want to give up. We had already gotten away from one thing, right? We had to go to war over it, and now they were like worried about, well, we're going to have another king, right? We're going to have King George, right? King George Washington. But so what they did was they really argued a lot about the states' rights and what the states' rights needed to be. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's in our Constitution, and we've sort of gotten so far away from it. So anyway,
How do we get the government?
that's a master's. Yes, ma'am, right here.
Shannon with the Flame.
Okay.
Hi, General. Thank
Hi.
you for all that you do. We are just days away from Title 42.
Yeah, and actually, I think it's
I've
Yeah.
seen Tom Holman. We hosted him. He's doing all the things.
Yeah.
What can we do, and what's your call to
Yeah.
action for all
Wow.
of us?
Well, You know, I tell you what, I am so upset with Governor Abbott. I mean, you know, I don't know how many of you are from Texas. That young man I talked to over there, he's from Texas, a little kid, you know, 11-year-old kid, you know, Dexter. And, you know, parts of our country are just broken. They're broken. So the institutions that we have are broken. But they can be fixed. And it's going to take, see, what we're going to need is we're going to need leaders rising up out of this country again. Because the political class that we have, that we've put in, right, for the most part, I mean, you know, you can say it's selected versus elected and all that, you know, and, you know, we can go down that road if you want, but we're too late, actually, to be even going down that road. So I've said that Governor Abbott, he can shut the border down in a day. He can mobilize all, he doesn't need a dime. He needs nothing from the federal government. Doesn't need a National Guard. He's got a National Guard. He's got people. So anyway, you know, a governor can do a lot. Okay, a governor can do a lot, but it's not just the border of Texas and Mexico. Every state, you know, and it's another thing that I dug into a year ago. I talked about a compact, right, state compact with each other, right? And you remember when the Abbott and then DeSantis kind of followed suit. They flew him up to like Martha's Vineyard, and they flew him into Washington D.C. You know, and I sat there and I thought, and I watched it, and I said, this is a joke. This is a joke.
Yeah.
You know, this is a publicity stunt. Frankly, to me, it further hurt our country. Because where are those people at?
Yeah.
So did they take them out of Martha's Vineyard and out of D.C. or wherever and those are the two sort of jokes that they were playing on the Democrats, I guess, on the administration. Where did they go? Bus loads, plane loads. Where'd they go? They're somewhere, maybe hanging around in Boston, or maybe hanging around in, you know, whoever, you know, God knows where. So it was a joke. They should have sent them back across the border. And I use those two states because one is contiguous to the Mexican border, the other is Florida, where we stand, right? And so every state has the responsibility, and every governor has the authority to be able to protect their borders. So if I'm in Nebraska, and I'm the governor of Nebraska, I can shut my borders down from people coming in from Kansas, Texas, Iowa, you know, all the different states. I can shut it down. And when they pass through, I can go, well, what business do you have in Nebraska? I don't have any business. I'm just passing through to go to Ohio. I'm on a trip to Ohio. Okay? And we mark your vehicle. I mean, a governor can do that if they wanted to do that. You know, now, would the federal government step in? They probably would. The federal government would probably step in and go, hey, you can't do this. And then it would be a court battle, and the governor would argue with the Supreme Court. I'd love to see that argument because it's in our Constitution.
Can we do that in the meantime? Can we, the people, draw a line on our own borders?
A county could do that if you had a really strong sheriff. A county could do that. I mean, you know, if you didn't, you know, I don't know if you listened to Devin Nunes talk yesterday. You know, he's from up in California. Maybe we were talking about this last night, but he's from a town that has about 65,000 people. And only a couple of years ago, they didn't have any, like, there was no homeless, there was no illegals that were in there. Because they're way up, you know, in the kind of the wine country area. I guess I forget which county he said, but he said now it's like they have hundreds of homeless just parked all over their town. You know, and it's like, that's California, but that's actually not just California, it's all over the country.
Yeah.
So it's not just what's happening at the border. It's happening every single place. And, you know, it's none of this, you know, we haven't talked about the drugs, right? But to me, it's like, what do we do about it? And then how do we do it? Okay, because I could sit up here and spend the next 6 hours telling you about the problems that we've got. But we have a Constitution, and we have to let the Constitution guide us. And people need to say to their republic or their elected officials, right, whoever they are, state level, county level, well, what's in, and so you should know the answer to the question. You know, when you ask somebody why don't you follow the Constitution? So go read it. You know, make sure you go read it. It takes you about an hour to read the damn Constitution. But read it, and also and also understand your state's constitution, okay? Because each state has its own constitution as well. And even counties have, municipalities have rules that are tied to that. People don't understand any of that. We just elect people because they look good, or we like them, or they say the right things, and they just go into office and they sit there and they twiddle their thumbs, or they rip us off.
Right.
And that's not universal, so I don't want to make it sound like it's universal, but it's really close.
General Flynn, I'd like to ask you your reaction to what happened with Tucker Carlson recently, and more specifically, if you've seen the 2 videos that he put out on Twitter.
Yeah, I think that, number one, Tucker Carlson is really smart. and I think that is, I think Tucker, people don't like, that's right, people don't like to hear the truth, okay? And you've seen Fox News kind of shifting over a long period of time here, and they're off the, they're sort of, have moved off the edge here. So, and they've always kind of been there. If you paid any attention, it's the only show was Tucker that all these others, the late night shows, the Hannity and Laura, Gutfeld can be funny at times, but Tucker was really going on he was hitting on some targets that they don't like. And the corporate world of media is so owned. That's why, even with some of you guys that are in different places, in some of the world that you're in, because there is some corporate, corporateness to you, you got to maintain your fierce independence.
Right.
You have to maintain your fierce independence. If you don't, then you're just one of them.
Yeah.
General Flynn.
Instead, and people will run to you because they're looking for honesty. They're looking for voices who are authentic. They're looking for leadership. You provide, you actually provide leadership
Yeah.
because you're leading your audience
That's
to
right.
believe something,
Come on.
right?
Right.
And that, to me, that's a function of who you are. So,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
I want to thank you for hosting the conference and connecting a lot of great people together. So I'm from Miami on the Bay. You're always telling me that Miami is a mess each time I meet
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
And they are running.
Beautiful, but it's a
yeah,
beautiful
it
mess.
is. Yes, and you're exactly right. It is a mess. We have some of the same leaders gathering together. Our county mayor, our city mayor, and many of our commissioners, the county and city commissioners on both sides, violate sunshine laws. And at the same time, they're also going to places like Qatar together. We are also
Yeah.
home of Bitcoin and FTX scandals. So can you speak to my Miami audience and tell them
Wow.
what you think we should
Yeah,
do?
so-
You encouraged me to run for city commission, so I want you to encourage
Good,
people in
yeah.
Miami to do whatever.
Well, thanks for that. It's Miami, so there's indicators and warnings that I would say for every major city in this country. And Miami is a reflection of a lot of the things that are happening to some of the large cities around our country. They're not controlled by, frankly, the people that are actually living in those cities any longer. And I think what sort of made me sad was that the amount of resources, and there's media resources, and there was some Pastors for America or something. They have some billboard out here somewhere, my picture on it. It's like, wasn't a bad picture. What they were trying to say, what people want, and this would be easy for a mayor. This would be easy for a city council. This would be easy for a school board. It'd be very, very easy to just kind of use common sense, but they don't use common sense, right? And there's these arguments going on in the cities around the country, not just Miami, because it's more than just Miami. I mean, Miami's the interesting thing about Miami, the Cuban population, and I've been to Cuba, and I have fought communism, and I have studied communism, and I have met many, many great. We have a bunch of first generation Cubans out here, and I know that the Cuban community is much greater than just Miami, but in Miami, it has a large group. What I fear, and I use that word specifically, what I fear is that the younger generation of Cubans don't understand what they're their moms or dads who may be first-generation Americans, you know, because of the time frame that we're in now, or certainly their grandparents who were definitely not, you know, they are clearly, they immigrated here, right? On whatever, you know, to leave this communist threat that they were under, this yoke of tyranny, right? So what I am afraid of is that there's a young population of Cubans in this area that are not understanding what their grandparents, principally their grandparents, or maybe their parents went through, and why they left a country to come to another country. I mean, that's a big decision.
Yes.
Big decision. And they left because it was a dictatorship. It was a communist dictatorship. And it still is. It's horrible. I mean, Cuba could be such a beautiful place, you know, with all kinds of abilities and capabilities. And it's not. It's sad. It's very sad. And there's great people in Cuba, and that community that came to this country came here because of the opportunities. And I think that the opportunities are fleeting for the next generation, the generation of children that are here in this particular community, because they'll lose it. It's so easy to go back. You know, we talked about Venezuela yesterday. We talked about inflation yesterday.
Yes.
Right? I mean, Venezuela was a top-tier country when I was a young man entering the military. So that's 40 years ago, so it's not that long ago. So, and now it's like, you know, their inflation's like 2,000% or something. I mean, you can't buy a roll of toilet paper. I mean, it's that bad. It's that bad in Venezuela. It's run by a bunch of crooks.
What do you say to the young Cuban Americans that are taking things such as turkey from our politicians or chickens? Basically, they keep them in poverty, they keep them speaking Spanish, and they're going out and giving them things and basically making these politicians idols in their communities.
Don't take a gift that you didn't earn.
Amen.
Yes, sir, right here.
General Flynn,